Hey everyone, What If Fan here, bringing you a brand new series. This is the first part of What If Natsu had dual elements. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name on my Patreon page. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 1, The Start of an Adventure. July 12, X777. Igneal. Where are you? A young pink-haired boy yelled as he walked through the forest. Where did you go? Natsu Dragneal gripped his scarf protectively as he leaned against a tree to catch his breath. He slowly sank to the ground and buried his head into his knees. Igneal, Natsu whispered, as tears built in the corners of his eyes. Why did you leave me? Did he abandon me? Did he not love me? Natsu thought as tears fell from his eyes. The young boy had been looking for his father for almost 5 days now. He had awoken one day to find that Igneal was gone without a trace. Natsu immediately started searching for the fire dragon all across Fiori. The dragon slayer had covered miles of ground, but hadn't found a single clue as to where Igneal could be. Why would he leave without telling me? Maybe something happened to him? Natsu thought as he wiped away his tears. He stood up and adjusted his scarf, which was made of dragon scales. I have to find Igneal. I will find you, father. Natsu picked a direction and started his search once again. He scoured the forest for a single clue that could possibly point him towards where Igneal might be. But after searching for hours, Natsu came up empty-handed. Damn it! Natsu exclaimed as he punched a tree. Why can't I find anything? Natsu sighed and sank to the ground. He looked around and noticed that it was getting late. Well, I better make a fire and try to find some food. Quickly gathering some sticks, Natsu made a small pile. Using his fire dragon slayer magic, Natsu formed a small flame in his hand and tossed into the pile of sticks. The sticks burst into flames, earning a small grin from Natsu. After searching around, Natsu managed to find a handful of nuts and berries. He looked at the various nuts and berries in his hand and sighed. Well, I guess this is dinner, Natsu said as he popped a berry into his mouth. Immediately Natsu's lips puckered, and his eyes began to water. He quickly spit the berry out and started coughing. What the hell? That thing was super sour. Natsu yelled as he tried desperately to forget the awful taste. Wait. Didn't Igneal warn me about poisonous berries? He told me how to tell the difference between good berries and poisonous ones. The poisonous berries will have a distinct and nasty smell compared to the normal berries. Using his enhanced sense of smell, Natsu separated the normal berries from the poisonous ones. After he separated the berries, Natsu popped another one into his mouth. Ugh, they're still really sour, Natsu said as he forced the berry down. But they're all I've got to eat, so bottoms up. After successfully forcing the berries and nuts down, Natsu sat staring into the small fire in front of him. Igneal, Natsu whispered as he gazed into the bright flames. His eyelids drooping as sleep started to overtake him. But just before he could fall asleep, Natsu heard a scream echo out through the forest. He was instantly on his feet, and sprinting towards where he had heard the scream. The dragon slayer soon found himself in a small clearing. Natsu spotted several people on the other side of the clearing. There was a small blue-haired girl, who looked a few years younger than him. Then there was a blue-haired boy with a red tattoo around his right eye. The boy was standing in front of the girl protectively as 4 men stalked towards them. Come on, little boy, one of the men said as he stepped forward. Hand over everything you've got. And I said no. The boy said as he pulled a staff off his back. Come any closer and I will be forced to retaliate. Jalal, don't. Just give them what they want. The little girl said with a scared look in her eyes. Yeah, you should listen to your little friend there. The lead thug said as he took another step forward. Now are you gonna hand over your stuff, the man said as he pulled out a sword. Or are we gonna have to take it? Jalal looked at the 4 approaching bandits and took a fighting stance. "You're gonna have to take it off my lifeless body," Jalal said as he turned to face the small girl. "Wendy, run and get out of here." "No. Jalal, I won't abandon you," Wendy said as tears formed in her eyes. "Wendy!" Jalal yelled, startling the girl. "Please go, I can't let these men hurt you." But Wendy tried to argue, but Jalal cut her off. "You want to find Grandini, right?" Jalal said, making Wendy's eyes widen. "Then get out of here and keep searching for her. I'll take care of these guys." Wendy looked torn as she shifted her gaze to the forest behind her. After a few moments she nodded and ran off into the forest. "Ah, how sweet," one of the thugs said with a wicked grin. "Save the little girl, while you sacrifice yourself. Let's kill this kid quick, then go after the girl," another thug said with an evil smirk. "You won't lay a finger on Wendy," Jalal growled out as he glared at the bandits. "Enough talk," the lead bandit said as he charged forward. "Time for you to die." The lead bandit swung his sword at Jalal, but the boy quickly ducked underneath the sword. Jalal swung his staff hard in the man's knee. A sickening crack was heard as the man's knee shattered. "Ah! You little shit!" the lead bandit roared as he fell to the ground. He turned his head to see the other men standing around. "What are you all waiting for? Kill this bastard!" Hearing this, the other men all charged Jalal at once. Not liking the odds, Natsu decided to finally make his presence known. Fire dragons roar. Jalal turned to see a stream of fire fly past him, and hit one of the bandits square in the chest. The bandit went flying back, charred and knocked out. Everyone was shocked to see a small pink-haired boy wiping excess flames from his mouth. "Who are you?" Jalal asked as Natsu walked up next to him. "I'll tell you after we beat these assholes," Natsu said with a grin as he punched his fists together, engulfing them both in flames. "I'm all fired up." "Shit, that kid is a mage," one of the bandits said as he took a step back. "What are you afraid of? He's a little kid," the lead bandit roared as he stood up on wobbly legs. A tick mark formed on Natsu's head at that comment. "I'm not just some little kid," Natsu yelled as he charged forward, flames licking his hands. "I'm a dragon slayer." Jalal went wide-eyed when he heard this. "He's a dragon slayer too, just like Wendy," Jalal thought as he watched Natsu dodge a sword swing. "Fire Dragon's Iron Fist," Natsu said as he sent a flaming uppercut into one of the bandits' jaw. "Hey!" Natsu exclaimed as he turned to face Jalal, all the while still dodging attacks. "Are you just gonna stand around, or are you gonna help me?" This snapped Jalal out of his trance, and he joined Natsu in the fray. They both ran towards the last bandit who could still fight. "You little bastards!" the man yelled as he charged Natsu and Jalal. The bandit swung his sword wildly as he tried to hit Jalal and Natsu. On one swipe, Natsu ducked underneath, while Jalal rolled to the left. "Fire Dragon's Claw," Natsu yelled as he slammed a flaming foot into the bandit's right side. At the same time, Jalal recovered from his roll and swung his staff. His blow struck the bandit in the left side of his head. Caught between both attacks, the bandit was instantly knocked out. Both Natsu and Jalal stood panting over the unconscious thug. "Not bad, for a little kid," Jalal said with a small grin. "You weren't too bad, yourself," Natsu said with a massive grin of his own. "You gonna tell me who you are now?" Jalal asked as he eyed Natsu up and down. "Oh. But Natsu was cut off by the sound of a gun cocking behind them. Both boys spun around to see the bandit leader pointing a magic gun at them. "You little shits!" the leader yelled as he aimed his weapon at Jalal. "I'm gonna kill you both here and now." The man pulled the trigger, and time seemed to slow for Natsu. He looked at Jalal, who was staring the bandit leader wide-eyed. Coming to a decision, Natsu quickly shoved Jalal out of the bullet's way. The bullet missed Jalal, but hit Natsu in the shoulder. "Ha! How noble of you, boy!" the leader laughed, as Natsu clutched his bleeding shoulder. The dragon slayer tried to stand, but immense pain shot through his shoulder as soon as it moved. Time to finish you off. Then I can kill that blue-haired bastard next. The leader said as he pointed his pistol at Natsu. Don't take your eyes off your opponents. The bandit leader turned his head to see Jalal charging at him. Before the man could react, Jalal struck him in the stomach with his staff. Pinky, finish him off! Jalal exclaimed as the bandit leader raised his pistol to aim at Jalal. Way ahead of you, and don't call me Pinky! Natsu yelled as he sucked in a large breath of air. Fire dragons roar! The bandit leader turned to see a wall of fire heading straight at him. When the leader tried to dodge the fire, he fell to his knees as searing pain shot through his leg. The man could only cringe as his body was engulfed in the flames. When the flames finally died down, the bandit leader was rendered unconscious. Thanks for the save back there, Jalal said as he walked up to Natsu. Are you all right? Ah, I'll be fine, Natsu said with a grin. But a sudden wave of pain made him grunt and grasp his shoulder. I need to get you some help, Jalal said as he helped support Natsu. There's a town not too far from here. Maybe they'll have a doctor. But right before Jalal started to carry Natsu off, Wendy burst out of the nearby bushes. Jalal, you're okay, the little girl said as she hugged Jalal's legs. Wendy? I thought I told you to get out of here, Jalal said as Wendy looked at her feet. I couldn't abandon you, Jalal. So I hid in the bushes and watched, Wendy confessed as she shuffled from foot to foot. Natsu exclaimed as pain shot through his shoulder. Wendy will discuss this later, but right now we need to get this guy to a doctor, Jalal said as he started to walk Natsu through the forest. Wait, he's injured? Wendy asked as she ran up next to Jalal. Yeah, he pushed me out of the way and took a bullet in the shoulder, Jalal explained, but he was surprised when Wendy ran in front of him. Let me heal him then, Wendy said with a determined look. No, Wendy, it's too dangerous for you, Jalal said as he continued to walk past Wendy. Please, Wendy said as she grabbed the back of Jalal's shirt. He saved you, now let me help him. Jalal looked at Wendy, and saw the fierce determination in her eyes. He knew that she wouldn't back down from this. All right, Jalal said with a sigh, as he set Natsu down onto the ground. Thank you, Jalal, Wendy cheered as she kneeled next to Natsu. Wendy's hands started to glow green as she healed Natsu's wound. But within minutes Wendy was sweating and breathing heavily. Wendy, you should take a break. You stopped the blood flow. We should be able to get him to a doctor now, Jalal said as he put a hand on Wendy's shoulder. No, I can do it, Wendy said as she closed her eyes in concentration. Her breathing became ragged as sweat dripped off her forehead. I'm almost done. Jalal watched as the wound on Natsu's shoulder slowly started to close. As soon as the wound fully closed, Wendy let out a shaky breath. Done. See, I told you I could do it, Wendy said with a smile, before she fell over unconscious. Wendy! Jalal yelled as he reached out to grab Wendy. But he was surprised when Natsu sat up and caught her. Thank you, Natsu whispered as he hugged Wendy. Even though she was unconscious, Wendy smiled, and snuggled closer to Natsu. Let's set up a camp. You can stay with us tonight, Jalal said as he started to take things out of his bag. Natsu gently picked Wendy up, and leaned her against a tree. He then went and started to help Jalal set up camp. So who are you? Jalal asked as he unrolled sleeping bags. I'm Natsu Dragneel, Natsu said with a toothy grin. The Fire Dragon Slayer. So you're a dragon slayer, Jalal said as he pointed to Wendy. She's one too. What? Natsu yelled, completely shocked. That little girl is a dragon slayer? Yes, she's the Sky Dragon Slayer. That magic she used to heal you earlier was sky magic, Jalal said, making Natsu's eyes widen. Natsu turned to look at Wendy with wide eyes. Another one just like me, Natsu whispered. Maybe she'll know something? Hey, you gonna keep talking to yourself? Jalal called out. Come help me start this fire. Oh, Natsu said as he walked over and flicked a small flame into the bundle of wood. I told you who I was, now tell me who you two are. Natsu said as both boys plopped down next to the fire. I'm Jalal Fernandez, and that's Wendy Marvel. Jalal said as he stole a quick glance at Wendy. So do you use magic? Natsu asked, earning a glare from Jalal. That is none of your concern, Jalal said as he continued to glare at Natsu. Whatever, I don't care if you use magic or not. Natsu said as he crossed his arms and stared into the fire. Both Natsu and Jalal sat around the fire for seemed like hours. Neither boy saying a word as they stared into the flames. They were both surprised when Wendy walked up rubbing her head. What happened? Wendy asked as she sat between Natsu and Jalal. You fell unconscious when you finished healing him, Jalal explained as Wendy turned to look at Natsu. So who are you? Wendy said with a smile. I'm Natsu Dragneel, Natsu said, returning the smile. And Jalal told me something pretty cool about you. Oh, what? Wendy asked in a confused tone. He told me you're a dragon slayer, Natsu said, making Wendy's eyes widen. Yeah, I'm the Sky Dragon Slayer, Wendy said, earning a grin from Natsu. Well, Wendy, you're looking at the Fire Dragon Slayer, Natsu said as he produced its small flame in his hand. Why, you're a Dragon Slayer T2? Wendy asked as she scooted closer to Natsu. Yep. Natsu said with a toothy grin. Instantly Natsu was tackled to the ground. He looked to see Wendy hovering over him, tears in her eyes. I can't believe I found another Dragon Slayer, Wendy said as she hugged Natsu. Oh, okay, calm down, Natsu said as he awkwardly patted Wendy's back. Have you seen or heard anything about Grandini? Wendy asked with hopeful eyes. Grandini? Natsu repeated with a confused look on his face. My dragon. She disappeared 5 days ago, and I've been searching for her ever since. Wendy said as fresh tears built up in her eyes. I don't know why she left, or where she went to. I haven't found a single clue about where she might be. Your dragon is missing too, Natsu said in a shocked tone. My dragon, Igneel, went missing 5 days ago too. I've been looking for him for days. Your dragon is missing too, Wendy breathed out. That can't be a coincidence. Jalal watched as Natsu and Wendy bounced ideas and theories off each other. He smiled as both dragon slayers started to connect. Looks like you found a new friend, Wendy, Jalal thought as Wendy and Natsu both hugged each other again. Well, you two, it's getting late, Jalal said as he stood up. We better get to sleep soon so you two can continue your searches. He's right, Natsu said as he released Wendy from the hug. Yeah, Wendy said as she walked towards her sleeping bag. But when Natsu walked towards where the sleeping bags were, he spotted a problem. There were only 2 sleeping bags. Where am I sleeping? Natsu asked as he watched Wendy crawl into her sleeping bag. Here, Jalal said as he tossed Natsu a blanket and pillow. Gee, thanks, Natsu said sarcastically as he laid down near Wendy. Wendy watched as Natsu grumbled to himself, as he laid down on the hard ground. Natsu? Wendy said shyly. Yeah, Wendy, Natsu said as he turned to face the young girl. Why, you can share with me. Wendy said as she scooted back, making more room for Natsu. Are you sure, Wendy? Natsu asked as he sat up. Yeah, it's fine, Wendy replied as her cheeks turned red in embarrassment. Okay, thanks, Wendy, Natsu said as he crawled into the bag next to Wendy. Good night, Wendy. Good night, Natsu, Jalal. Wendy said as she closed her eyes. Natsu was surprised when he felt Wendy snuggle up closer to him. So warm, Wendy thought as she drifted off to sleep with a smile on her face. The next day Natsu, Wendy, and Jalal made their way through the forest. They eventually found themselves on a main trail. Well, I guess this is where we head our separate ways, Jalal said, earning a frown from Wendy. Are you sure you have to leave us, Natsu? Wendy asked in a sad tone. Yeah, I gotta look for Igneel, and you have to look for Grandini. Natsu said with a toothy grin. But don't worry, we'll see each other again someday. You promise, Wendy said with a hopeful look. Of course, and I always keep my promises, Natsu said, as Wendy ran up and hugged him. I'm gonna miss you, Natsu, Natsu said as tears formed in her eyes. I'll miss you too, Wendy, Natsu said as he hugged the young girl. And I guess I'll miss you too, Jalal. TCH, whatever, Jalal said as he turned his head. But he couldn't help the smile that spread across his face. He was gonna miss the fire dragon slayer as well. Wendy released Natsu from the hug, and he smiled down at the small dragon slayer. If I hear anything about Grandini or Igneel, I'll let you know, Natsu said as he patted Wendy's head. Thanks, and I'll do the same for you, Wendy said with a smile. Well, I'm off, Natsu said as he started to walk down the path. I'm sure we'll see each other again someday. Goodbye, Natsu, Wendy called out as she waved at Natsu. See you around, Pinky, Jalal said with a smirk on his face. Jalal quickly ducked as a fireball flew over his head. What did I say about calling me Pinky? Natsu exclaimed as he glared at Jalal. I thought you were leaving, Jalal said with a grin as he stood back up. Yeah, I'm leaving to get away from your annoying ass, Natsu yelled as he turned to leave again. You're cool though, Wendy. That guy, Jalal said with a smile as he watched Natsu walk off in the opposite direction. Come on, Wendy, let's go. Okay, Wendy said as she followed after Jalal. But she took one last glance at Natsu's retreating form, his words echoing in her head. We'll see each other again someday. I always keep my promises. Wendy smiled as she walked behind Jalal. I can't wait until we meet again, Natsu, Wendy thought as she sped up to walk next to Jalal. July 16, X777. After another 4 days of searching, Natsu was still empty-handed. His search had taken him out of the forest and into the surrounding mountains. As Natsu climbed a particular slope, he felt the air start to crackle with electricity. His hair stood up, and he could feel the static electricity in the air. Then the smell hit him. It wasn't quite Igneel's scent, but it was close to it. Whatever was ahead was definitely a dragon. When Natsu climbed over the crest of the slope, he saw it. There near a large cave was a massive dragon. Its body was covered in constantly flowing electricity. The dragon wasn't quite Igneel's size, but it was still towered over Natsu. Natsu stared at the dragon in awe. Finally, after over a week of searching, he had found something. Building up his courage, Natsu approached the dragon. As Natsu drew closer, the dragon slowly turned its head towards the small boy. My child? The dragon said as it sniffed the air. And you have the scent of a dragon slayer. Are you here to kill me, boy? And no, Natsu said sheepishly as he stopped in front of the dragon. I just wanted to ask you some questions. Oh? What could a child like you possibly want to ask me? The dragon said as it lowered its head to Natsu's level. Do you know where my father is? Natsu asked, earning a grunt from the lightning dragon. And who might your father be? The dragon asked with its face inches from Natsu's. Igneel. The dragon gasped and stared at Natsu wide-eyed. You were raised by Igneel, the king of the fire dragons? The dragon asked in a shocked tone. Yes, now do you know where Igneel might be? Natsu asked with a hopeful look. The dragon sighed when he saw Natsu's hopeful face. He knew where Igneel was, but he couldn't tell the boy where Igneel truly was. I'm sorry, child, but I don't know where Igneel is, the dragon said, causing Natsu's hopeful look to drop. Oh, okay then, Natsu said as he turned to leave. I'm sorry for bothering you. Wait, boy. The dragon called out, stopping Natsu in his tracks. What? Natsu asked as he turned to face the dragon. My name is Valinor, and I am the king of the lightning dragons, Valinor said, making Natsu's eyes widen. And I have a proposition for you. Proposition? Natsu repeated with a confused look on his face. Yes, a proposal or request, Valinor explained. Okay, I'm listening, Natsu said as he crossed his arms over his chest. Valinor leaned forward and grinned at Natsu. How would you like to learn Lightning Dragon Slayer magic? Valinor said with a grin as he watched Natsu's face. What? Natsu replied in complete shock. Do wish to learn Lightning Dragon Slayer magic? I'm sure it will help you on your quest to find Igneel. But be warned, I won't go easy on you during your training. So what do you say, boy, are you up to the challenge? Valinor said, as a look determination spread across Natsu's face. Natsu Dragneel never backs down from a challenge. Natsu exclaimed as he pounded a fist to his chest. I'll take you up on your offer, and I'll master Lightning Dragon Slayer magic. Very well then, Natsu. Follow me, and let's get started. Valinor said as he walked back into his cave. I'm all fired up. Natsu yelled as he chased after Valinor. October 16, X 777. After 3 months of intense training, Natsu had managed to master Lightning Dragon Slayer magic. He was now able to use his fire and lightning magic interchangeably. But he wasn't able to figure out how to combine them yet. During these 3 months, Natsu and Valinor became rather close. Valinor had become a sort of older brother to Natsu. They had their spats and fights, but they would always work past them. For 3 months, Natsu was almost inseparable from Valinor, rarely leaving the dragon's side. But that all changed when Natsu awoke on October 16, X 777. The first thing Natsu noticed when he awoke was the lack of static electricity in the air. Then there was no sign of Valinor's scent. Natsu shot up to find that the dragon was no longer in the cave with him. No. Natsu repeated as he bolted onto his feet. He was instantly searching around the cave for Valinor. But he came up empty-handed. It was just like Igneel. Not again, Natsu said as he fell to his knees. Why did this have to happen again? Natsu held up both hands. One sparking with electricity, and the other engulfed in flames. Where did you both go? Natsu whispered as tears built up in his eyes. Natsu suddenly stood up and quickly wiped his eyes. No, I won't cry. Natsu said as he started to make his way down the mountain. Valinor taught me his magic so I could be stronger. I'm gonna find you both. I'll never give up on either of you. Father, big brother, I will find you both. Natsu thought as he made his way towards the nearest town. After almost 2 hours, Natsu found himself in a village near the mountains. Natsu walked through the village looking for a shop to buy supplies. He took out a small bag where he kept his money and looked inside. Shit! Natsu said to himself as he spotted the handful of jewels in his bag. I need to find a way to get some more money. How the hell am I gonna do that? Natsu sighed and leaned against a building. Natsu tried to think of possible ways to make money, but 2 men walking past him caught his attention. Did you hear about what some fairy tale mages did? One of the men asked the other. Yeah, I heard about that. They destroyed half a town trying to take out a couple dark mages. The other man replied in an excited tone. Then they went on to wipe out the guild the dark mages came from. The first man said with a laugh. No wonder they're the strongest guild in Fiori. No one can stop Fairy Tale. The second man said with a grin. A guild, huh? That would be a great way to earn money, and if I'm gonna join a guild, why not go for the best? Natsu thought as he pushed himself off the building. Hey, old man. Natsu called out to the 2 men. Huh? The first man said as he turned around. What do you want, brat? Where is the Fairy Tale Guild located? Natsu asked with a smirk. It's in Magnolia due north of here, the second man said as he pointed to the mountains ahead. It's a couple miles past those mountains. By foot it's about a week's travel. Thanks, old man. Natsu said as he ran past both men. Why did you want to know, kid? The second man called out. I'm going to become a fairy tale mage. Natsu called out with a grin. The 2 men stood dumbfounded as they watched Natsu sprint in the direction of Magnolia. October 18, X 777. After 2 days of walking, Natsu had neared the mountains that would lead him towards Magnolia. But the pink-haired dragon slayer had no idea how to get over the mountains safely. As Natsu approached the mountains, he spotted a large manor in the distance. Deciding that asking for would be a good idea, Natsu approached the large house. Natsu was blown away at the size of the house and the grounds surrounding the manor. Natsu walked up to the door and knocked a few times. After a few moments, a woman in a maid's outfit answered the door. "Oh. What can I do for you, young man?" the woman asked as she looked down at Natsu. "I was wondering if you knew a way through the mountains over there. I'm on my way to Magnolia," Natsu said as he pointed to the mountains behind him. "Well, there should be a path that leads straight through the mountains. I can fetch a map for you," the maid explained, earning a toothy grin from Natsu. "Thanks, that would be a big help," Natsu said as the maid went to fetch the map. A few minutes later, the woman returned and handed Natsu a map of the surrounding area. "Here you go, young man," the maid said in a pleasant tone. "Thank you," Natsu said just as his stomach growled loudly. Would it be too much trouble to ask for something to eat?" The maid looked at Natsu, who was smiling and rubbing the back of his in embarrassment. She couldn't possibly just push this hungry kid away. "All right," the maid said as she opened the door for Natsu to enter. "But after you eat, you have to leave." "Sure thing," Natsu said as he stepped into the large home. The maid led Natsu into a large dining room. She told him to sit at the table while she made him something to eat. As Natsu sat at the table, his eyes wandered the room. The table was massive and could easily seat 60 people. There were pictures and paintings lining the walls, and elaborate decorations adorned the table. But when Natsu turned his head towards the doorway leading into the dining room, he spotted someone poking their head through. It was a blonde-haired girl. She had big brown eyes and looked to be about his age. "Hi," Natsu said excitedly as he waved at the girl. "Who are you?" the girl asked as she stepped into the dining room. "I'm Natsu Dragneel," the pink-haired boy said with a massive grin. Natsu stuck out his hand for her to shake. "Who are you?" The girl eyed Natsu before she shook his hand. "I'm Lucy Heartfilia," Lucy said with a small smile as she sat next to Natsu. "So what are you doing out here?" "I'm heading to Magnolia," Natsu said with a smile. "I'm gonna join Fairy Tail and become a guild mage." Lucy looked at Natsu wide-eyed. An image of the Fairy Tail mage that had saved her flashed into her mind. "Hey, are you alright?" Natsu asked, his face inches from Lucy's. I'm fine," Lucy stuttered out as her face turned beet red. "You're weird," Natsu said as he sat back in his seat. This made a frown spread across Lucy's face. "But you're pretty too." Lucy's face turned even redder at Natsu's comment. What?" Lucy squeaked out, her face bright red in embarrassment. "I said you're pretty," Natsu said as he got a confused look on his face. "Was I not supposed to say that?" "And no, it's okay. Thank you for the compliment," Lucy said with a small smile. "Sure thing," Natsu said with a grin. Both children never noticed the maid standing in the doorway. She watched the two children talk and laugh with a smile on her face. "Looks like you've made your first real friend, Lucy-sama," the maid thought with a smile on her face. "Here you go, young man," the maid said as she handed a plate of food to Natsu. "Oh, Lucy-sama, it's so nice to see you greeting our guest." Lucy just blushed, while Natsu dug into his food. After eating, Natsu stood at the manor's front door ready to leave. "Well, I'm off again," Natsu said as he opened the door. "It was nice meeting you, Lucy." "It was nice meeting you too, Natsu. Maybe we'll see each other again someday," Lucy said with a smile and a small blush. "Of course we'll see each other again," Natsu said with a grin. "You ever want to find me, just head to Fairy Tail." With that, Natsu ran out the door, map in hand, on his way towards the mountains. "Fairy Tail, huh?" Lucy thought as she watched Natsu run off. Later that night, Lucy was in the bath with a very annoyed Aquarius. "What did I say about summoning while you bathe, brat? Aquarius said with a tick mark on her head. I'm not some bath toy. No, I just wanted to talk with you, Lucy said as she looked into the water. Oh, what did you want to talk about? Aquarius asked in an annoyed tone. Well, I met a boy today, Lucy said as her face turned red again. This got Aquarius' attention. The celestial spirit smirked and leaned closer to Lucy. Go on, tell me everything about him, Aquarius said with an evil smirk. Already the celestial spirit was thinking of ways to tease the poor girl. October 20th, Act 777. Finally, I'm past those damn mountains, Natsu exclaimed as he walked through the forest. The pink-haired dragon slayer then pulled out his map. Okay, it looks like I'm about another day's travel from Magnolia, Natsu said just as his stomach started to growl. Ugh, I'm starving. Just then the smell of cooking meat flooded Natsu's nose. Food! Natsu exclaimed as he started to sprint towards where the smell was coming from. He eventually found a small fire with some meat roasting over it. Natsu's mouth watered as he inched towards the fire. I'll just eat this real quick then leave before anyone notices, Natsu thought as he picked up one of the pieces of meat. But right before he could take a bite, Natsu felt a cold blade press against his throat. If you want to live, you'll put that down, a feminine voice said from behind him. Oh, okay, Natsu said as put the meat back. Now leave, the person said harshly as they pushed Natsu away. Wait, please, I'm starving, Natsu said as he turned around. But what Natsu saw made him stop dead in his tracks. Standing with a small sword pointed at him, was a girl with beautiful scarlet red hair. She was wearing a tattered light blue dress, and she had an eye patch over her right eye. Maybe we started off on the wrong foot, Natsu said as he held out his hand. I'm Natsu Dragneel. The girl looked at Natsu suspiciously before her sword suddenly disappeared into thin air. She then reached out and shook Natsu's hand. I'm Urza Scarlet, the redhead said as she released Natsu's hand. Was that magic you just used? Natsu asked in a shocked tone. Yeah, it's called re-equip magic. It allows me to change weapons and armor on the fly, Urza said as she held out her hand, her sword suddenly reappearing in her grasp. That's so cool, Natsu exclaimed as he held out his hands. I'm a mage too. Suddenly Natsu's hand were engulfed in flames. Then the flames died down, and were replaced with electricity. What type of magic is that? Urza asked, earning a grin from Natsu. It's fire and lightning dragon slayer magic, Natsu replied. That's impressive, Urza said as she sat next to the fire. So what are you doing out here? I'm heading to Magnolia, and I'm gonna join Fairy Tail, Natsu said as he sat across from Urza. Really, I'm heading there too, Urza said, making Natsu go wide-eyed. Then we should totally go together, Natsu exclaimed with a massive smile. Urza couldn't help the small smile that spread across her face. Alright, I guess we can head there together, Urza said, earning a cheer from Natsu. Sweet, we're gonna be great friends, I can already tell. Just then Natsu's stomach growled again. Natsu's face turned red in embarrassment. Do you think I could have some of your food? Natsu asked nervously. Sure thing, Urza said as he handed Natsu a piece of meat. You're an angel, Urza, Natsu yelled as he took a massive bite out of his food. Urza simply blushed at Natsu's word, and started to eat her own food. So, Natsu said, breaking the silence. What happened to your right eye? Urza visibly flinched at Natsu's question. I don't want to talk about it, Urza replied in a sad tone. Alright, Natsu said in a confused tone. If you do ever want to talk about it, I'm all ears. Urza looked up at Natsu's smiling face, and her mood brightened slightly. Thanks, Natsu, I may take you up on that offer someday, Urza said with a small smile. Soon after eating, Natsu and Urza were back on the path towards Magnolia. Natsu was right, Urza and him became friends rather quickly. Urza liked Natsu's hyper and carefree attitude, while Natsu liked Urza's stern but loving attitude. After another day of travel, the duo had finally made it to Magnolia. Asking around, they eventually found themselves in front of the Fairy Tale Guild Hall. "We're here," Natsu said as he stared at the building in wonder. "Yeah," Urza breathed out. "Well, it's now or never," Natsu said as he put his hands on the door. "Wanna do it at the same time?" "Sure," Urza said with a smile as she placed her hands on the door as well. 3, 2, 1, push. Natsu said as Urza and him started to push the door open. They both pushed the door open, and were instantly met with the loud sounds of the guild hall. Laughter, arguments, and fights echoed throughout the guild. But everything stopped as soon as the doors opened. Everyone in the guild turned to look at who had just walked into the room. Silence filled the room as Natsu and Urza stood awkwardly near the doorway. "Oh, what do we have here?" a short man asked as he walked up to Natsu and Urza. "My name is Natsu Dragneel and this is Urza Scarlet," Natsu said with a toothy grin. "And we're here to join this guild." "Well, son, my name is Makarov, and I'm the master of this guild," Makarov said with a smile. "So I welcome you to Fairy Tale, my children." The entire guild let out a cheer as Natsu and Urza were led to get their guild marks. They both could tell they were gonna love it here. Chapter 2, Happiness and Tragedy. October 28, X 777. Natsu and Urza had been Fairy Tale mages for about a week, and they were adjusting rather well. The Dragon Slayer and the re-equipped mage had quickly formed a team, and went on their first mission together. It wasn't a particularly hard mission. Before they left, Urza had changed into a new outfit. She now wore a white long-sleeve shirt and skirt with dark blue leggings, and a pair brown boots with a red ribbon around her neck. She also now sported an armor chest plate and a sword strapped to her hip. Natsu and Urza were tasked with helping an elderly couple do various chores around their home. The mission was going great, until Natsu destroyed half the house. The Dragon Slayer was trying to grab the couple's cat, but the feline pounced Natsu and clawed his face. Instantly enraged, Natsu started to chase the cat throughout the house, often using his flames and lightning to try and stop the fleeing feline. The elderly couple got a good laugh out of the situation, but Urza was less than thrilled. After furiously apologizing to the couple, Urza swiftly scolded Natsu. The elderly couple was alright with the damages and paid the duo the full reward for their efforts. So when the new team returned to the guild hall, they celebrated their first successful mission together. As Natsu and Urza sat in the guild after their first mission, Urza indulged herself in a piece of strawberry cake which Natsu noted that she was thoroughly enjoying. While Urza savored her cake, Natsu's eyes wandered to the other members of the guild. The first people Natsu saw were Wakaba and Mikao. Both men were sitting at their own table nursing their drinks. They seemed to be reminiscing their younger days, which Natsu could overhear because of his enhanced Dragon Slayer senses. While they were talking, they were simultaneously ogling several of the girls around the guild. Natsu didn't mind Wakaba or Mikao. They were alright in his book, a little perverted, but alright nonetheless. Next, Natsu's eyes landed on Ritas. The picked mage was leisurely painting and humming to himself. Natsu didn't really know what to think of Ritas. He had only spoken to the picked mage once or twice, so he really hadn't gotten a good read on Ritas. But Ritas was one of Natsu's nakama, so he was cool with the Dragon Slayer. When Natsu turned his head, he spotted Kana and Levi. Both girls were sitting down and playing some sort of board game. Natsu was rather intrigued by both girls' magical abilities. The Dragon Slayer found Kana's card magic and her ability to predict the future using tarot cards very cool, while Levi's script magic allowed her write words in the air, and whatever word she wrote would form in front of her. For example, if she wrote the word fire, the word would materialize and be engulfed in flames. Levi also loved to read books, which Natsu didn't care for at all. Kana let out a cheer when she suddenly won the game, but Levi quickly called her out for using magic to cheat. As Natsu watched the exchange, he frowned slightly. Even though Kana was smiling, he could tell she was hiding something from the rest of the guild. Natsu knew it had something to do with Guildarts, Fairy Tale's strongest mage. The Dragon Slayer had noticed how Kana would often flinch ever so slightly when Guildart's name was mentioned. Sparing one last glance at Kana, Natsu turned his head again and spotted the Strauss siblings. All three of them were sitting at a table together. Mira Jane Strauss honestly scared the shit out of Natsu. Especially since she was glaring at Urza, who was still enjoying her cake. Both girls had almost instantly formed a fierce rivalry, each constantly trying to outdo the other. It didn't help that Mira Jane was extremely strong, and had a wickedly short temper. In the short time that Natsu had been at Fairy Tail, he had lost count of the amount of times Mira had beat him. Thank God Urza was always quick to save him, and fend off Mira's fierce fists. Sitting across from Mira Jane was Elfman Strauss. Natsu was rather perplexed by Elfman though. The Dragon Slayer could tell that the takeover mage was rather strong, not as strong as Mira however. But Elfman was very sensitive and timid, and was actually quite shy. Natsu couldn't think of one time he had heard Elfman raise his voice, or get angry at anyone. But Natsu could also tell that Elfman was fiercely loyal and protective of his sisters, and he would do anything to keep them safe. Next to Elfman sat the youngest Strauss sibling, Lisanna. Natsu rather liked Lisanna. Besides Urza, Lisanna was Natsu's first friend in Fairy Tail. The young girl had quickly approached Natsu after he had gotten his guild mark, and asked if they could be friends. Natsu grinned and immediately agreed. Ever since then, whenever Natsu wasn't with Urza, he was most likely with Lisanna. Sensing that someone was watching her, Lisanna turned her head to see Natsu looking at her. She smiled and waved at Natsu. The Dragon Slayer smiled and waved back. Turning around, Natsu saw Jet and Droy sitting at the table behind him. Jet was practically bouncing in his seat, while Droy played with some seeds in front of him. Natsu liked Jet, but his endless energy and constant running wore Natsu out. Droy was also cool with Natsu, but the Dragon Slayer was baffled by Droy's magic. I mean, who uses plants to fight? From what Natsu could hear, they seemed to be talking about potentially forming a team. They were arguing about potential members for their new team. Natsu heard Urza and his names mentioned as potential members, but Jet and Droy quickly realized that Urza and him were already a team. After a few more moments, both Jet and Droy agreed that Levi would probably make the best addition to their team. Natsu smiled as he watched Jet and Droy make their way over to where Levi and Kana were sitting. The next person Natsu saw made his blood boil in anger. Sitting at the table across from him was Grey Fullbuster, who was in the process of removing his boxers. Natsu and Grey had almost immediately become rivals. The Dragon Slayer didn't really know what it was, but something about Grey just constantly rubbed him the wrong way. Maybe it was the fact that Grey was an ice mage, and Natsu used fire. But it was most likely because Grey could be a smug asshole from time to time. The ice mage was constantly making little comments that would set Natsu off in an instant. Natsu couldn't count the amount of times Grey and him had fought in his short time at Fairy Tail. It would always start with Grey insulting Natsu in some way. Then Natsu would retaliate with his own insults. Their arguing would only escalate from there, eventually leading to a full-on fist fight. But like with Mira, Urza would always break the two of them up, often resulting in a severe beating as punishment for Grey, and a stern talking to from Urza for Natsu. It always surprised Natsu how Urza would rarely hit him. She may have smacked him upside the head a few times, but she never gave him the beatings she would give other guild members. She would usually just drag him away, and scold him, which actually worked rather effectively. Natsu found himself apologizing rather frequently after a scolding from Urza. But Natsu swore he would never apologize to Grey. The bastard deserved everything he had coming. Grey noticed that Natsu was looking at him, and was about to make a snide comment. But Natsu just smirked and raised his arm. Twirling around Natsu's finger was Grey's boxers. The ice mage had a horrified look on his face, as he looked down to see that he was completely naked in the middle of the guild. When Grey looked back at Natsu, he immediately started to glare at the Dragon Slayer, and demanded that Natsu return his boxers. Natsu simply grinned and engulfed his hand in flames, instantly turning Grey's boxers into a pile of ashes. The ice mage let out a surprised squeak as he raced around the guild hall in search of something to cover himself. All the while Grey cursed Natsu, and swore that he would get payback. Natsu merely laughed at Grey's misfortune, but a harsh glare from Urza instantly sobered him up. The dragon slayer knew he'd get a talking to later. Then Natsu spotted a person who absolutely made him seethe in anger. This person infuriated him even more than Gray did. Leaning against a wall neath the back of the guild was Laxus Dreyer. A growl actually escaped Natsu's throat when he spotted Laxus. This caused Urza to look up from her piece of cake. She followed Natsu's gaze and groaned. "Natsu, please don't start anything with Laxus tonight. We've both had a long day, and I don't need to take you to the hospital," Urza said as she ate a forkful of cake. Natsu grumbled to himself and sank into his seat. But Natsu continued to glare at Laxus. On the other side of the guild hall, Laxus spotted Natsu glaring at him. Laxus merely smirked at Natsu, making the pink-haired dragon slayer furious. If Urza wasn't right in front of him, Natsu would have charged across the guild and challenged Laxus to a fight. With Gray, Natsu disliked him for numerous reasons. But there was one singular reason why Natsu despised Laxus. It was because Laxus was also a lightning dragon slayer. But Laxus wasn't a true dragon slayer like Natsu. Unlike Natsu, who had learned his magic from an actual dragon, Laxus had a lacrimia in his body that allowed him to use lightning dragon slayer magic. This sole fact infuriated Natsu, to know that someone else knew the same magic as him. Natsu was constantly compelled to challenge Laxus, to try and prove that he was the better lightning dragon slayer. But Natsu wasn't even close to Laxus' level yet, so whenever Natsu challenged Laxus he would get his ass kicked. Laxus continued to smirk at Natsu as he walked out of the guild. Natsu glared at Laxus the whole time. When Laxus exited the guild, Natsu promised himself he'd beat Laxus one day and prove that he was the better lightning dragon slayer. "Alright Natsu, let's head to bed," Urza said as she got up from her seat. Natsu sighed before he nodded and followed after Urza. Truth be told, Natsu was worn out as well, but he wasn't particularly looking forward to going to sleep. This was because Natsu and Urza had to share a bed. Since neither of them had a place to stay at the moment, they had to stay at the temporary housing in the guild hall. But since the housing area was already packed, Natsu and Urza were forced to share a room. The room wasn't very big and only had one bed. Natsu had insisted that Urza take the bed while he slept on the couch. Urza, however, refused to let Natsu sleep on the couch, and told him that he could share the bed with her. Natsu, although a little hesitant at first, was overjoyed that he got to sleep on the bed. But Natsu soon found out that Urza was often plagued with terrible nightmares. In the middle of the night, Urza would often grab onto Natsu and hold onto him tightly. She would then mumble a few incoherent things, before a few tears would escape her left eye. The first time this happened, Natsu was extremely worried, because he had no idea what to do. So he did what Igneel used to do for him when he had a bad dream. Natsu grabbed onto Urza and held her close to his body, using his natural body heat to soothe her. He then ran his fingers through her scarlet hair, and whispered kind words into her ear. After doing this for a while, Urza would eventually calm down and snuggle closer to Natsu, and then she would drift off to a peaceful slumber. When Urza awoke the next morning, and found Natsu holding onto her, she let out a screech and promptly kicked him out of the bed. Natsu had quickly scrambled to his feet, and found Urza sitting on the bed blushing madly as she clutched a hand over her racing heart. Urza then yelled at Natsu for a solid 5 minutes straight, before she stormed out of the room. Urza had hardly spoken to him for most of the day. But after Natsu had explained what had happened, Urza blushed bright red and immediately calmed down. "Natsu, come on, I want to get some sleep," Urza exclaimed as she grabbed Natsu's hand, and started dragging him towards their shared room. "You'll be the only one getting any sleep," Natsu mumbled under his breath. But Urza had still heard. So she turned around and smiled at Natsu. "If you help me sleep tonight, we can go on any mission you want tomorrow. Then after, I'll treat you to dinner. How's that sound?" Urza said, earning a cheer from Natsu. Urza could only giggle as Natsu now dragged her towards their room. Within minutes they were in their shared bed. Urza let out a contented sigh, as Natsu wrapped his arms around her and surrounded her in his relaxing warmth. "Natsu, what would I do without you?" Urza thought with a warm smile, as she drifted off to sleep in Natsu's arms. July 7th x 778. It was the 1-year anniversary of Ignil's disappearance, and Natsu had wished to be alone. Urza was hesitant to leave him alone at first, but after Natsu explained what this meant to him, she reluctantly allowed him his privacy. Natsu walked through the forests surrounding Magnolia. His thoughts were filled with memories of Ignil. It had been 1 year since Natsu had seen Ignil, and it made Natsu feel incredibly lonely. Now Natsu loved all his nakama at Fairy Tail, and he knew he had made the right decision in joining the guild. Natsu had even started to slightly get along with Gray. Even though he hated to admit it, Natsu knew that Gray and him actually made a pretty effective team. The few bonding missions that Urza had dragged them on had turned out to be very successful. Natsu would gladly give his life to protect all his nakama. But even with all his new friends, it didn't quite replace the loneliness Natsu felt sometimes. Ignil, Natsu said to himself, as he leaned against a tree. Natsu slumped to the ground and closed his eyes. I will find you, Ignil, and then we can be a family again. I can introduce you to all my new friends. A smile spread across his face as Natsu pictured all his friends meeting Ignil. Yeah, that will be the day, Natsu said with a smile, as he drifted off to sleep against the tree. Natsu didn't know how long he was asleep for, but he was awoke when landed on his head. Damn it, that hurt! Natsu exclaimed, as he rubbed the bump on his head. What the hell hit me? Natsu felt a weight on his lap and looked down. The Dragon Slayer was surprised to see a large egg with blue markings on it sitting in his lap. An egg? Natsu said as he gave the egg a few experimental taps. I wonder what's inside it. Natsu tapped the egg a few more times, and it shook slightly in response. Whoa! I better get this to the guild. Maybe someone there will know what it is, Natsu said as he picked up the egg and raced towards Fairy Tail. Urza stood at the request board and scanned all the available missions. During her first year at Fairy Tail, Urza had managed to get an artificial right eye. All thanks to Porly Yusuka, Fairy Tail's main physician. The re-equipped mage had also grown out her hair, which was now fashioned in a braided ponytail. As she stared at the available missions, Urza was surprised when someone spoke up next to her. Excuse me, Urza, but do you know where Natsu is? Urza turned her head to see Lisanna standing next to her. The youngest Strauss sibling was staring up at Urza with hopeful eyes. I'm sorry, Lisanna, I don't know where Natsu is, Urza said as she grabbed a particular request and read its contents. Natsu requested that he be left alone today. So I was planning to go on an easy mission to pass the time. Would you like to come with me? Lisanna looked momentarily sad, but she quickly put on a smile. That's all right, Urza, I just wanted to see if Natsu wanted to play with me, Lisanna said as she turned to head back towards her brother and sister. Urza sighed as she went notify Master Makarov that she would be going on a mission. But before she had reached the master, the doors to the guild were kicked open. Everyone turned to see Natsu running into the guild carrying a massive egg. Natsu, what are you doing back so soon? I thought you wanted to be alone today? Urza asked as Natsu placed the egg on a table. And what is that thing? I don't know, Natsu panted out, as he caught his breath. Taking a deep breath, Natsu started speaking again. I was sleeping under a tree when this thing fell on my head. I think it's some sort of egg. I brought it here hoping that someone can tell me what it is. Everyone in the guild crowded around the egg and started to examine it. But no one had any idea what the egg could be, or what could be in it. Well, I'm keeping it, Natsu said as he carried the egg towards Urza and his room. Natsu, what are you doing? Urza asked as she walked next to Natsu. I'm bringing the egg into our room so that we can watch it, Natsu said as he opened the door to their room. But Natsu was surprised when Urza immediately closed the door before he could enter the room. Natsu, you're not keeping that egg in our room, Urza said in a stern voice. Why not? Natsu asked as he reached for the door handle again. But Urza quickly slapped his hand away. Because we don't know what is in that egg. We don't need some dangerous monster hatching in the middle of the guild. Urza said, earning a pout from Natsu. I will help you raise this egg. But it is not to be kept in the guild. Do you understand me? Yes, Urza, Natsu said in a defeated tone. Don't be that way, Urza said as she placed a hand on Natsu's shoulder. We can find another place to raise this egg. Urza then looked past Natsu to see Lisanna looking at them. Plus I bet Lisanna would love to help us. Really? Natsu asked as he turned to look at Lisanna. Of course. She was even asking where you were earlier, because she wanted to play with you. Urza explained as she started to usher Natsu towards Lisanna. Let's ask her if she wants to come with us. Oh okay, Natsu stuttered out as Urza pushed him towards Lisanna's table. Lisanna was surprised to see Urza pushing Natsu towards her. Hey Lisanna, Natsu as his face turned red in embarrassment. I'm sorry about not being here earlier. It's alright Natsu, Lisanna said with a smile. Seeing Lisanna's smile made Natsu smile as well. I was wondering if you wanted to help me and Urza raise this egg. Natsu said as he lifted the egg onto the table. Sure, I'd love to help Natsu, Lisanna said as she hopped down from her seat. It's like we'll be one big family. Well, that settles it, we'll all work together. Urza said as started to drag Natsu and Lisanna towards the door. So Natsu, do you have any idea where we could raise the egg? Natsu closed his eyes and thought carefully. After a few moments his eyes shot open. I got the perfect spot. Natsu exclaimed as he raced out of the guild with Urza and Lisanna hot on his heels. If we hurry we can get there in time. After almost 20 minutes Natsu had arrived at the perfect place to watch the egg. The sun was just setting when the group arrived. Why did you take use here Natsu? A slightly winded Urza asked as Lisanna and her caught up. Look, Natsu said as he pointed to the setting sun. Urza and Lisanna both turned around to see a beautiful sunset painting the horizon behind them. It's beautiful, Urza breathed out as she gazed at the brilliant colors of the sunset. Yeah, it's amazing, Lisanna agreed in awe of the picturesque horizon. This is the perfect place Natsu, Urza said with a smile as she patted Natsu on the back. Natsu, Urza, and Lisanna all watched the sunset together that night. The next day Natsu had returned, and had built a small hut made out of straw on the spot where they had watched the sunset. Every day for 2 months Natsu, Urza, and Lisanna would take turns watching the egg at their little straw hut. During these 2 months Natsu, Urza, and Lisanna became even closer. Just like Lisanna had said, the 3 children become a sort of family to the egg. But it was on September 10, 778 that something amazing happened. It was Natsu's turn to watch the egg. As he sat in the straw hut, warming the egg, he suddenly noticed that the egg was shaking slightly, and had several small cracks along its shell. So with speed that would make Jet jealous, Natsu grabbed the egg and raced back towards Fairy Tail, almost dropping the egg several times along the way. Everyone heard Natsu before he even reached the guild. His screams could be heard across Magnolia. But when he burst through the doors, no one was expecting him to be carrying a glowing egg into the guild. It's about to hatch, Natsu yelled as he raced to a table in the center of the guild. Within seconds the entire guild had surrounded the table. Everyone was holding their breath as they watched the egg start to shake violently. Suddenly a blinding white light filled the guild. When the light finally died down everyone turned to see what lied within the egg. No one was expecting to see what they saw. Floating a few feet above the egg was a small blue cat, with white wings coming out of its back. The cat looked around the guild for a moment before it raised its right paw, uttering a single word. I. The little blue cat cheered. Everyone stared at the floating blue cat in awe, until the entire guild yelled out at the same time. He's so cute. Instantly the cat was surrounded by people trying to pet him. Somehow the little blue cat had eventually made its way into Natsu's arms. The cat had fallen asleep from all the excitement, and was curled up in a ball in Natsu's arms. Natsu was surprised when Urza came up and started to pull on his ear. What did I say about bringing the egg to the guild? Urza asked in her scolding voice. You're just lucky this little guy wasn't some murderous monster. A smile then spread across Urza's face. So what are you gonna call him? A thoughtful expression spread across Natsu's face, as he tried to think of a name. He looked around the guild looking for some sort of inspiration. The Dragon Slayer noticed the jovial and upbeat mode the whole guild was in. Then like an attack from Laxus, inspiration hit him. Happy, Natsu finally said as he smiled down at the small blue cat. It's perfect, Urza said with a smile of her own. Later on that night, as the sun was setting, Natsu, Urza, and Lisanna once again found themselves sitting together and watching the sunset. But this time a fourth member was with them. Happy was curled up asleep in front of the three children. He's so cute, Lisanna said as she gently petted Happy's head. Yeah, Urza said as she gazed at Happy with a warm look. Looks like our little family is complete. I hope we can be like this forever. Natsu said as he gazed at the setting sun. October 16, X 782. Natsu stood in front of a small grave in front of the straw hut he had built. Silent tears fell from his eyes as he stared at the tombstone. The grave belonged to one of his best friends, Lisanna Strauss. The youngest Strauss sibling had tragically died on a mission. She was killed when her older brother, Elfman, had lost control over one of his takeovers. Elfman then went berserk and started to attack Mira Jane. Lisanna had stepped in front of Elfman and tried to reason with him. But he was too far gone and attacked Lisanna. Elfman and Mira Jane hadn't been to the guild since Lisanna died. They were both a wreck, but in different ways. Elfman was constantly crying and blaming himself for killing Lisanna. Mira Jane on the other hand shed few tears, instead she became distant and rarely talked to anyone. Lisanna's death also hit the guild hard as well. The guild was no longer its old lively self. The atmosphere was thick with sadness. No one went on missions, they just stayed at the guild and grieved for the loss of their nakama. Natsu and Happy didn't attend Lisanna's funeral. Instead he spent the whole day at the straw hut he had built. He spent 3 whole days up at the hut, grieving in his own way. The only people who had attempted to speak with him were Urza and surprisingly Gray. They both had attempted to get Natsu to return to the guild. But he had simply told them he would return when he was ready. On the 3rd day Natsu had finally returned to guild. With a blank face he walked up to Elfman, who was sitting at a table silently sobbing to himself. Elfman looked up with tear-filled eyes to see Natsu staring at him. And Natsu, what do you want? Elfman asked as he tried to wipe away his tears. Can we please move Lisanna's grave to the hill overlooking Magnolia? The place where we helped raise Happy. Natsu asked with a straight face. Elfman looked like he was about to protest. But Natsu said something that stopped him dead in his tracks. Please, it's what Lisanna would want. When Elfman looked at Natsu, he could tell that the Dragon Slayer was desperately fighting off tears. So not wanting to cause any more pain, Elfman simply nodded his head. Thank you, Natsu said as he turned to leave. But before Natsu left, he turned to Elfman one more time. Please don't blame yourself for Lisanna's death. It wasn't your fault. Lisanna wouldn't want you to blame yourself. Elfman's eyes widened as he watched Natsu walk out of the guild, with Happy slowly flying behind him. Fresh tears formed in Elfman's eyes as he placed his head in his hands. Later that evening Natsu and Happy had carried Lisanna's tombstone up to the straw hut. Natsu stood staring at the grave for what seemed like hours. The Dragon Slayer was surprised to feel an armored hand land on his shoulder. He turned his head to see Urza standing behind him. Natsu could see that her left cheek was tear-stained, and he could see that fresh tears were forming in her left eye. Urza, it hurt so bad, Natsu said as he choked back a sob. I know, Urza said as she grabbed Natsu's head and gently held against her armor-clad chest. They both stood like this for a while. Both silently crying, as Urza held Natsu close like he used to do with her. Urza was surprised when she heard soft sobs coming from behind them. She turned her head to see Elfman behind them. The sun was setting behind him as he stood there. His face was still heavily bandaged with his right eye completely covered. Natsu knew that Elfman had been approaching, so he didn't bother turning around. I'm so sorry. I killed Lisanna. Elfman said as he choked back a sob. I should have brought you with us, Natsu. Then none of this would have. Elfman was suddenly cut off by Natsu. Quit it already. I already told you to stop blaming yourself. If you keep crying like this forever, that ain't gonna make Lisanna smile, will it? Lisanna, Natsu said as he started to shake slightly. She was always smiling, no matter what. She was smiling until the very end. I'm sure that's the way she was. That's Lisanna. It's the sad times when she smiled even more. Isn't that what they call being a man? Natsu yelled as he finally turned to face Elfman, tears flowing from his eyes. Elfman went wide-eyed at Natsu's words. A man. Elfman said to himself. Come on, Natsu, let's get you home. Urza said as she started to walk Natsu towards his home that he shared with Happy. Natsu, I promise you'll never have to feel like this ever again. Urza thought as she held Natsu close. Neither of them noticed Mira Jane leaning against a tree. She had been silently listening the whole time. Natsu, thank you for everything you've done for my family, especially Lisanna. I don't think I can ever repay you. Mira thought as a single tear fell from her left eye. April 20th X784. In the 2 years since Lisanna's death, the guild had bounced back. Fairy Tale was once again back to its lively self once again. But the wounds of Lisanna's death were still evident. Mira Jane was no longer an active mage, instead she preferred to serve drinks at the guild's bar. Elfman, while loud and boisterous, was now far more protective of Mira Jane. But aside from that, everything was largely the same. Natsu still fought with Grey, and constantly challenged Laxus whenever he was in the guild. Urza still loved strawberry cake, and went on missions with Natsu. Kana still drank outrageous amounts of alcohol. Levi was still a bookworm, and was rarely seen without a new novel. Jet and Droy still bickered and argued over who Levi liked more. Ritas, although much heavier, still hummed to himself as he painted. Macau and Wakaba still reminisced about their younger days. Everything had pretty much returned to normal in Fairy Tale. Except for Natsu and Mira Jane's relationship. Natsu used to fear Mira, but after Lisanna's death they became rather close. They both consoled each other, and along with Urza helped each other get over Lisanna's death. Because of this, Natsu and Mira had become very close. Like with Lisanna, whenever Natsu wasn't with Urza he was at the bar chatting with Mira. It was during one chats at the bar that Natsu would receive some life-changing news. Hey Natsu! A guild member whose name Natsu could remember came running up to him. Yeah, what is it? Natsu asked as he turned away from his conversation with Mira and Urza. I heard some rumors about a fire-breathing salamander near the port town of Harjan. It might be Igneel. Natsu was out of the guild within seconds, with Happy hot on his trail. Urza and Mira smiled as they watched Natsu race out of the guild. Igneel, please be you, Natsu thought as he frantically packed his bags. Chapter 3, The Fated Reunion. 2 days later, Harjan town. Ugh, I'm never riding on a train ever again. Natsu groaned out, as he laid on the floor of the train. His face was green as his motion sickness started to overwhelm him. You say that every time we're on a train, Natsu? Happy said, as he stood over the sick dragon slayer. The blue cat sighed, and put his paws on his hips. If Urza were here, she would have been able to help with this. Ugh, is that guy gonna be okay? The conductor asked, as he scratched his head. Happy replied with a smile, as he turned to face the conductor. This happens to Natsu all the time. Just give him a minute. After a few moments Natsu managed to drag himself up, and lean out the train's window. Fresh air! Natsu exclaimed, as he inhaled deeply. Come on Natsu! Happy cheered, as he stepped off the train. If that tip was correct then the salamander should be in this town. Give me 5 minutes Happy. Natsu groaned out, as he suddenly dry-heaved. I think I might actually barf. Suddenly the train started to move again, with Natsu still on it. What the hell is going on? Natsu screamed, as surge of motion sickness hit him. Happy! Get me off this fucking thing! Happy just stood by and watched the train depart. Welp, would you look at that, the train's already departing. Happy said, as Natsu started to disappear off into the distance. Bye Natsu. You little piece of HMPH. Natsu suddenly clamped his hands over his mouth, as he felt a surge bile coming up. With a grimace, Natsu managed to keep his breakfast down. I'm seriously gonna kill that stupid cat. In the middle of town, a young blonde woman was in Harjan's only magic shop. What? How can this be the only magic shop in town? Lucy exclaimed, as she put her hands on her hips. I'm sorry, miss, but this town is known for its fishing, not magic. The shopkeeper said, as he raised his hands defensively. Hardly anyone in town can use magic, so I opened this shop to help traveling mages. Damn it, Lucy sighed, as she pinched the bridge of her nose. I think I'm wasting my time in here. Wait, miss, don't leave just yet. I just got a bunch of new items recently. The shopkeeper exclaimed, trying to keep Lucy from leaving. With a sigh, Lucy began to browse around the small shop. What about this one? The shopkeeper asked, as he took out a small device. It's called Colors Magic, and depending on your mood, it allows you to change the color of your clothes. It's very popular with girls. To demonstrate, the shopkeeper swiped his finger across the lacrima on the device. Suddenly his clothes changed from yellow to purple. I already have one of those. Lucy said, not even paying attention to the shopkeeper. I'm looking for strong celestial spirit gate keys. Gate keys? The shopkeeper said, as he scratched his head. Those are pretty rare. Suddenly Lucy spotted a small box tucked away off to the side. The white doggy! Lucy exclaimed, as she snatched the gate key. That one's not very strong. The shopkeeper said, as Lucy placed the key on the counter. I don't care, I've actually been looking for this one for a while now. Lucy said with a smile. Now how much is it? That will be 20,000 jewels. The shopkeeper said, as he held up 2 fingers. Lucy choked on her own breath when she heard that price. But she kept her cool, and continued to smile. I wonder how much this key is? Lucy asked, as she tapped a finger to her chin. I said it will be 20,000 jewels, the shopkeeper repeated. Suddenly Lucy sat up on the counter. Her blouse was unzipped slightly, showing a very generous amount of her cleavage. I wonder how much it really is? Lucy asked in a sultry tone. You wonderful old man. 2 minutes later Lucy stormed out of the shop. That old prick only knocked off a 1,000 jewels, Lucy huffed. Lucy looked down at her large breasts and sighed. What the hell are these things good for, if they can't even get me some free stuff every now and then? Suddenly Lucy kicked a nearby sign. Is my sex appeal really only worth 1,000 jewels? Lucy exclaimed, as she kicked the sign across the street. As Lucy huffed in annoyance, a crowd of girls ran past her. Lucy watched where the girls were heading, and saw a large crowd of cheering girls. What the hell is going on over there? Lucy asked herself, as another group of girls ran by. Did you hear a famous mage is in town? One of the girls asked. Yeah, I heard it's Salamander-sama. Another girl replied with hearts in her eyes. Salamander? Lucy whispered, as her eyes suddenly went wide. They say he can use fire magic that can't be bought in stores. I have to get a glimpse of him. Lucy quickly ran over, and started making her way through the crowd. When she finally saw the man in the center of the crowd, her heart started to beat erratically. Why is my heart beating so fast? Lucy thought, as she clutched a hand over her racing heart. Just as Lucy entered the crowd, Natsu and Happy came walking down the other side of the road. I can't believe I had to ride that train twice. Natsu exclaimed, as he turned his head to glare at Happy. No thanks to you. It's not my fault you're terrible with transportation. Happy said with a shrug. Anyways, I'm hungry. Well, we have no money. Natsu said with a frown. Hey Happy, they meant Igneel when they were talking about this salamander, right? Yep, Igneel is the only thing that comes to mind when I think of salamanders. Happy replied with a smile. That's what I thought to Buddy, Natsu said as he patted Happy's head. I've finally found him. I feel so much better now. Happy said, as he raised his paw. Suddenly Natsu spotted a large crowd gathered across the street. But that's not really caught his attention. Natsu inhaled deeply, catching a familiar scent in the air. No way, Natsu whispered as he started walking towards the crowd. What is it, Natsu? Happy asked, as he followed behind Natsu. I smell someone. Natsu said as he started to push his way through the crowd. Who? Happy asked, as he tried to make his way through the crowd of cheering girls. Lucy, Natsu replied, as he neared the center of the crowd. It's been so long since I've seen her. Lucy slowly stepped forward. She was barely able to control herself as she approached the salamander. What's happened to me? Lucy thought, as the salamander turned his gaze to her. Lucy's heart practically jumped out of her chest when their eyes met. Is it because he's a famous mage? Is that why my heart is beating so fast? Could this be love at first sight? Lucy! Natsu cheered as he pushed himself into the center of the crowd. But the person Natsu saw definitely wasn't Lucy. It was just some random guy. Who the hell are you? Natsu asked with a deadpan expression. Lucy's eyes widened when she saw the pink-haired man step in front of her. Suddenly her heart started to beat even faster than before. Pink hair and a dragon scale scarf. Lucy thought, as tears of happiness built up in her eyes. Natsu, I can't believe it's really you. Maybe you might know me as Salamander? The man asked Natsu, as he flipped his hair. Nope, doesn't ring a bell. Natsu replied, as he immediately dismissed the man. The Dragon Slayer's eyes scanned through the rest of the crowd. Then he saw her, standing just a few feet away from him. Natsu's eyes widened when he spotted Lucy. She had certainly changed from when he last saw her. Her blonde hair now reached to just below her shoulders, and she had a blue bow tied into it. Her chocolate brown eyes were still as warm and inviting as ever. She was wearing a blue and white blouse, which struggled to hold in her large breasts, and a criminally short skirt with a pair of black boots that went up to the top of her calves. Natsu also spotted a whip and a set of keys attached to her hips. Now Natsu isn't as oblivious to girls as he lets on. He could admire a beautiful girl, and he definitely caught himself gazing at Urza and Mira quite often. So Natsu could say for sure that Lucy had grown up to be a stunning girl. Natsu was cut off when he received a fierce kick to his jaw. Don't be so rude. Salamander-sama is an amazing mage, so show him some respect. Apologize right now, you bastard. A group of fangirls had gathered around Natsu, and were taking turns beating him. What the hell is going on here? Natsu yelled in anger. He could feel the flames building up inside him. Alright girls, that's enough. Salamander said, as he waved the girls off. He didn't mean to be rude. Ah! He's so kind. All girls said in unison. Lucy glared at the salamander, as he scribbled something on a board. Here's my autograph, the salamander said, as he handed Natsu the board. You can show it to all of your friends. I don't want that shit. Natsu said, as he pushed the autograph out of his face. Suddenly Natsu felt himself flying through the air, as he was thrown out of the crowd. I certainly appreciate your awesome welcome, ladies. Salamander said, as a cloud of pink flames formed underneath him. Well, if you'll excuse me, I have some errands to run at the port. So with a snap of his fingers, Salamander was flying off. But he yelled something before he was out of earshot. I'm having a party on my ship tonight, you're all welcome to drop by. The salamander said, as he disappeared off into the distance. Natsu groaned as he sat up. I guess that wasn't Igneel. Happy said in a sad tone. You think? Natsu said sarcastically as he stood up. What a prick. Natsu? Natsu spun around to see Lucy standing there smiling at him. "Lucy!" Natsu exclaimed, as he pulled Lucy in for a tight hug. "I missed you, Lucy." I missed you too, and Natsu." Lucy stuttered out, as her face flushed bright red. "Man, so much has happened since I last saw you," Natsu said with a smile, as he released Lucy. "Well, you want to get something to eat, and catch up?" Lucy suggested, as she gestured to a nearby restaurant. "You're an angel, Lucy," Natsu said, as he bowed before Lucy. "Me and Happy are starving." "Happy?" Lucy asked with a confused look. "I'm down here." Lucy looked down at her feet to see a blue cat staring up at her. A talking cat! Lucy screamed as she suddenly jumped back. "Man, you were right, Natsu, she is weird," Happy said, as he turned to face Natsu. "Hey! I'm not weird, you stupid cat!" Lucy yelled, as her face turned red in embarrassment. "Come on, Happy, stop embarrassing Lucy, she is buying us something to eat after all," Natsu said, earning a cheer from Happy. "You're the best, Lucy." Happy cheered, as he jumped for joy. "Oh, now you're nice to me," Lucy said with a sigh, but then something that Natsu had said hit her. "Wait. I'm buying?" "Well, we kinda don't have any money on us," Natsu said with a sheepish smile, as he rubbed the back of his head. "Fine, I'll pay," Lucy said with a huff. "But you two owe me." "Sure thing, Lucy," Natsu said with a grin, as he followed Lucy into the restaurant. 10 minutes later. "No way, you know Titania?" Lucy exclaimed, as Natsu took a huge bite of his food. "Titania?" Natsu said with a confused look on his face. "Oh. You mean Urza." "Yeah, I know Urza, she's one of my best friends. We actually joined Fairy Tail together." "Wow, that's amazing," Lucy said, as she stared at Natsu in awe. "Do you know Mira Jane as well?" "Mira?" Natsu said with grin. "Of course I know Mira, she one of my best friends too." "No way!" Lucy exclaimed, as she dug through her bag. After rifling around, she eventually pulled out a magazine. "She's so beautiful." Natsu leaned over and saw what Lucy was looking at. It was an issue of the Weekly Sorcerer with some pictures of Mira in a bikini. "Ugh, I wish she would stop doing those stupid photoshoots," Natsu groaned out, as he sat back into his seat. "Why?" Lucy asked, as she raised a blonde eyebrow. "She only does those photoshoots as a distraction," Natsu replied, as he took a gulp of his drink. "What do you mean a distraction?" Lucy asked, now completely intrigued. Natsu sighed and put his drink down. "Myra's little sister, Lisanna, died 2 years ago," Natsu explained, as his eyes got a faraway look. "Mira hasn't really been the same since then. She stopped being a mage, and now she works as a bartender at the guild. I know she does those photoshoots to help distract her, so that she doesn't think about Lisanna. Mira puts on a brave face, but I know Lisanna's death still haunts her. But I think she's been getting over it little by little. Me and Urza try our best to make her happy. I just never want her to be sad like that ever again." Lucy sat dumbfounded by what she had just heard. She had no idea that something that tragic had happened. Lucy looked at Natsu, and she was surprised to see that his hands were balled into fists. She was starting to get worried when the temperature started to rise around them. "Oh no, it's happening again," Happy said, as he immediately jumped up onto the table. "What's happening?" Lucy asked, as sweat started to form on her brow. "This happens whenever Natsu starts to think about Lisanna. She was like a sister to him, so her death hit him really hard. I don't know what we should do, usually Urza or Mira snaps him out of it when he's like this," Happy said, as he slowly backed away from the dragon slayer. Lucy reached out to touch Natsu. But as soon as her hand touched his shoulder, she reeled her hand back. His skin felt like a mix of searing fire and static electricity. "Happy, what would Urza or Mira do when he gets like this?" Lucy asked, as the other restaurant patrons started to feel the heat as well. They would lay his head against their laps and gently stroke his hair, Happy explained. But you should be careful, Lucy, only Urza and Mira were able to do that. If anyone else tried, it wouldn't work. Well, I have to try, Lucy said, as she stood up and moved over to Natsu's side. She sat next to the dragon slayer and gently laid his head onto her lap. She hissed when she felt his burning skin against her thighs. When she ran her fingers through his hair, Lucy felt small jolts of electricity nip her fingers. After a few moments of this, the temperature dropped back to normal, and Natsu seemed to calm down. Wow, Happy said as he stared at Lucy. I've only seen Urza and Mira be able to do that. Well, I guess I just have the magic touch, Lucy said with a smile. Suddenly Natsu groaned and sat up. He turned his head to Happy and sighed. It happened again, didn't it? Natsu asked the blue cat. Yeah, but Lucy helped you, Happy said, as he pointed at Lucy. Natsu turned his head to see Lucy smiling at him. You did that? Natsu asked, earning a nod from Lucy. Wow, thanks, Lucy. Oh, it was no problem, Natsu, Lucy said, as she waved her hands dismissively. Natsu smiled at Lucy, but then he spotted red marks on her hands and thighs. Ah shit, I'm sorry, Lucy, Natsu said with a guilty look on his face. What are you? Lucy followed Natsu's gaze. She noticed that where Natsu's head had been was now bright red. Then she looked at her hands and saw that they were red as well. Don't worry about it, Natsu, I've been through worse. Anyways, I should be thanking you. Thank me for what? Natsu asked, as he looked up at Lucy and raised an eyebrow. For freeing me from that salamander bastard earlier, Lucy explained with a look of disgust. He was using charm magic, and it was drawing me towards him. It's magic used to capture other people's hearts. That's why all those girls were following him. So it was banned several years ago. But thanks to you guys, I broke out of the spell. I see, Natsu said as Lucy moved back to her side of the booth. Did I mention that I'm a mage too? Lucy asked, as she sat down. No, Natsu said, as he started to eat his food again. But I kinda assumed you were one, because I noticed those keys and that whip on your hip. Yep, I'm a celestial spirit mage, Lucy said with a big smile. I've never met a celestial spirit mage, so that's pretty cool, Natsu said, as Lucy showed Natsu her keys. Yeah, each of these keys summon a spirit from the celestial spirit world, Lucy explained, as she grabbed a gold key. But these gold keys summon one of the 12 zodiac celestial spirits. They're super rare, because there are only 12 keys. I've got 3 of them, but I've been looking all over for the other ones. That's really cool, Lucy, Natsu said with a smile, as Lucy put her keys back onto her hip. So what are you doing in Harjan anyway? Lucy asked with a quirked eyebrow. We're searching for Igneal, Happy quickly answered, in between bites of fish. Igneal? Lucy asked with a confused look. I had heard a rumor that Salamander was coming to this town, so we came, but it was the wrong person, Natsu said with a sigh. This salamander didn't look anything like a salamander. Happy chimed in, as he picked up another piece of fish. Damn it, I thought it was really gonna be him this time, Natsu said with a sad look. What? How can a human look like a salamander? Lucy asked, making both Natsu and Happy turn to face her. HRMM? Igneal isn't a human, Natsu replied, making Lucy's eyes widen. He's a real dragon. There is no way a dragon would be in a town like this, Lucy exclaimed. Natsu and Happy were about to argue, but they stopped when the realization hit them. Don't tell me you just thought of that, Lucy yelled. Both Natsu and Happy's heads slammed onto the table. We're so stupid, Happy, Natsu groaned out. Geez, Lucy said as she put some money on the table. Well, let's get going. Going? Natsu asked, as he raised his head off the table. You're a fairy tale mage, right? That's where I was heading, so I want you to take me there," Lucy said, earning a grin from Natsu. "Sure thing, Lucy," Natsu said as he stood up. "But first I gotta take a leak." "Ugh, I don't need to know that," Lucy exclaimed, disgust evident on her face. "Just wait outside, and we'll head to Fairy Tale when I'm done," Natsu said, as he walked into the bathroom. "Come on, Happy," Lucy said as she walked past the blue cat. "I'll be out in a sec, Lucy, I'm not done with this fish yet," Happy said, as his mouth started to water. "Stupid cat," Lucy mumbled as she walked out of the restaurant. Lucy sat down on a bench just outside the restaurant and waited for Natsu. As Lucy waited, she pulled out her issue of the Weekly Sorcerer again. "Oh, Fairy Tale caused trouble again," Lucy said as she flipped through the pages. "They took out the Devon thief family, but they also destroyed several other homes." "Ha ha. That's hilarious." As Lucy flipped through the pages, her mind began to wander. "I wonder how I get into Fairy Tale anyways. Do I have to learn some strong magic, or maybe take a test?" Lucy sighed, as she put the magazine back into her bag. "All I know is that I'm gonna join Fairy Tale. It's the best guild ever, plus Natsu will be there." Lucy said the last part quietly to herself. "So you want to join Fairy Tale?" Lucy jumped out of her seat at the sudden voice. She turned to see Salamander in the bushes. "What do you want?" Lucy asked harshly. "I've been looking all over for you. I wanted to invite a beautiful lady like you to my party later," Salamander said with a wink. "TCH, I'll pass," Lucy said as she turned her head. "And FYI, your stupid charm magic won't work on me anymore. As long as I know about it, that stupid magic won't work." "Ishm, I knew you were a mage," Salamander said as he rubbed his chin. "I could tell as soon as our eyes met. I would love it if you came to my party." "Piss off," Lucy spat. "Like I would hang out with a jerk like you. You're not even close to a popular mage." Lucy started to walk back towards the restaurant, but Salamander called out to her. "Wait. You want to join Fairy Tale, right?" Salamander asked, as he reached out towards Lucy. "I can talk to the master for you, and get you in." "No thanks, someone else from Fairy Tale is already taking me there," Lucy said with a smirk. "W what?" Salamander exclaimed with a worried look. "Then I defiantly can't let you get away." "What are you going on about?" Lucy asked, as she laid a hand on her keys. Before Lucy could react, Salamander raised his fist. One of his rings started to glow brightly. Immediately Lucy started to feel faint, and seconds later she fell over unconscious. "You should have just came to the party," Salamander said with a smirk, as he slung Lucy over his shoulder. Moments later, both Salamander and Lucy were flying towards his ship on a trail of pink fire. Just as Lucy and Salamander were out of sight, Natsu and Happy walked out of the restaurant. "Man, I ate a lot," Natsu said as he patted his belly. Natsu scanned the area outside the restaurant, but he didn't see Lucy anywhere. "Where could Lucy be?" Natsu asked, as a familiar scent hit his nose. The Dragon Slayer followed the scent and came to the bench Lucy had been sitting on. She was here, and recently too. Then another scent hit Natsu's nose. Ugh, so was that Salamander freak. "Natsu, you don't think that Salamander guy did something to Lucy?" Happy suggested with a worried look. "If he did, I'm gonna kick his ass," Natsu said as he punched his palm, causing electricity to spark to life in his hand. "I can still faintly pick up their scent." Natsu followed the scent until her came to a ridge overlooking the town. "Hey Natsu, didn't Salamander say that he was having a party on his ship tonight?" Happy asked, as he pointed to a docked ship. "Ugh, I'm getting sick just looking at that thing," Natsu groaned, as he turned a little green. "You're hopeless, Natsu," Happy said with a sigh. "But Lucy is probably on that ship." It was then that Natsu overheard a group of girls talking nearby. "Did you hear that Mage Salamander is having a party on his ship tonight?" One of the girls asked. Yeah, I heard he's from the famous fairy tale guild. Another girl replied. Natsu shot to his feet when he heard this. Anger was evident in his eyes, as he glared at the ship that was setting sail. So that bastard has the nerve to call himself a fairy tale mage. Natsu exclaimed as rage filled his body. And he has the balls to kidnap Lucy. Electricity started to spark off Natsu's body, startling the group of nearby girls. Happy, let's go, we have a salamander to fry. Aye, sir. Happy exclaimed, as he picked Natsu up and started flying towards the ship. Lucy awoke with a splitting headache. She quickly recognized that she was on a ship. Turning her head, Lucy saw that she was in what appeared to be a large cage. When she sat up, she saw Salamander smirking at her. Where am I? Lucy screamed at the man in front of her. Oh my dear, you are on my slave ship. Salamander said in a dark tone. Let me go, you bastard. Don't make me hurt you. Lucy yelled as she reached for her keys. But when she grabbed for Toro's key, she grabbed air. She looked down and went wide-eyed when she saw that all her keys were gone. Looking for these? Salamander asked, as he twirled Lucy's keys around his index finger. Give those back. Lucy exclaimed, as she reached an arm through the bars of her cage. Where you're going, you won't be needing these. Salamander said, as he tossed Lucy's keys out of the open window. No! Lucy screamed as she felt tears build up in her eyes. Now be a good little girl and let me brand you. Salamander said with a wicked grin. This might burn a little, but you'll be fine. You son of a bitch, Lucy whispered as tears streamed down her face. You're the worst mage ever, you're scum. Just before Salamander could reply, a bolt of lightning hit the ship. Immediately all the lights on the ship went out at the same time. What the hell just happened? Salamander roared as several of his goons ran into the room. The ship was struck by lightning, sir, and it caused the power to go out. One of the goons answered. How can there be lightning? It's a perfectly clear night. Salamander exclaimed, just as the ceiling above him exploded. Salamander and his goons managed to jump out of the way just as Natsu landed in front of Lucy's cage. Natsu! You came to save me. Lucy said with a smile, as she wiped away her tears. Oh, it's that brat from earlier. Salamander said in a bored tone. Natsu turned to face Lucy, as a smile spread across his face. Lucy, I'm here to HMPH. Natsu suddenly collapsed to the ground with swirls in his eyes. Nope, I can't do it. That's so lame, man. Lucy yelled at Natsu, who was barely supporting himself against the wall. Where the hell did this kid even come from? Salamander asked, as he looked through the hole in the ceiling. Suddenly Salamander felt something fly past him. He looked down, and saw that the keys to the cage were gone. When he looked back up, he saw a blue cat with wings releasing his prisoner. Happy, when did you get wings? Lucy asked, as Happy wrapped his tail around Lucy's waist. No time to explain now. Happy said as he started to fly off. What about Natsu? Lucy yelled over the rushing wind. I can't carry two people at once. Happy simply replied. Don't let that girl get away. We can't have her reporting this to the council. Salamander exclaimed, as he fired a stream of pink flames at Happy and Lucy. The rest of Salamander's goon grabbed guns and started shooting at the flying cat. Lucy, I'm gonna need you to stay calm. Happy said in a nervous tone. Why? Lucy asked, as she looked up at the flying cat. My transformation magic just ran out. Just then Happy's wings disappeared. You shitty cat! Lucy screamed as she plummeted into the water. With a deep intake of breath, Lucy emerged above the water. If I could find my keys, I could help. Lucy said, just as Happy floated up next to her. You mean these? Happy asked, as he pulled Lucy's keys out of his green pack. Where did you get these? Lucy asked as she snatched her keys. Natsu grabbed him before he blew that hole in the roof. Happy explained, as Lucy grasped one of her gold keys. Okay, here I come, Lucy said as she raised the key above her head. Open the gate of the water bearer. Aquarius. Lucy plunged her key into the water, and instantly a glowing magic circle surrounded her. Seconds later, a blue-haired mermaid, carrying a vase, appeared out of the water in front of Lucy. Whoa, that's a big fish! Happy exclaimed, as he drooled slightly. Aquarius, use your power to send that ship back to shore. Lucy said with a grin, as she pointed to the ship. TCH, Aquarius said with an annoyed expression. Did you just say TCH? Lucy exclaimed. Listen here, you noisy brat, Aquarius said as she turned to glare at Lucy. If you ever let my key get stolen again, I will kill you. Sorry, Lucy squeaked out, as she backed away from Aquarius. Ray-aha! Aquarius roared, as she raised her vase. Suddenly a massive tidal wave swallowed up the ship, along with Lucy and Happy. Don't sweep me up too! Lucy screamed, as the water rushed them towards the shore. Seconds later the ship crashed back onto the shore. Salamander limped out of the wrecked ship, and stared at the destruction. How could you hit me along with that ship? Lucy yelled, as a tick mark formed on her head. My bad, I hit the ship as well. Aquarius replied, as she slapped a hand to her head. Were you aiming for me? Lucy screamed at Aquarius. Don't bother me for a while, girl, because I'm gonna be on vacation with my boyfriend. Aquarius said, as she started to vanish. With my boyfriend. No need to repeat yourself. Lucy yelled at the vanishing spirit. Ag! We forgot about Natsu. Happy exclaimed, as he ran to find Natsu. What the fuck just happened? Salamander asked, as he stared at his destroyed ship. The swaying stopped, Natsu said as he stood up. It finally stopped. Natsu, are you okay? Lucy asked as she stormed into the room Salamander and Natsu were in. Kid, you shouldn't go on people's property without their permission. Salamander said with a smirk. Natsu ignored Salamander and started to remove his red jacket. Natsu, I'll help you. Lucy said as she reached for her keys. Don't worry, Lucy, let Natsu take this one. Happy said with a grin. Lucy looked at Natsu, who had tossed his jacket off to the side. So you're a fairy tale mage? Natsu asked, as he glared at Salamander. Yeah, what's it, you brat? Salamander replied with a smirk. Then come closer, let me get a good look at you face. Natsu said, as two of Salamander's goons rushed towards him. The Dragon Slayer delivered a powerful backhand, hitting both men. I'm Natsu of Fairy Tale, and I've never seen your ugly fucking face before. Bora and all his men went wide-eyed when they saw the red fairy tale marker on Natsu's shoulder. That mark, one of the goons stuttered out. Bora-san, that kid's the real deal. You idiots, don't call me by my real name. The now-named Bora scolded his cronies. Bora of prominence. I've heard of him. Happy said, as a slight breeze revealed the lime green fairy tale mark on his back. He was banished from the Mage Guild Titan Nose several years ago. He used magic to commit several thefts, that's why he was banished. I don't a shit whether you're good or bad. Natsu said, as he clenched his teeth. But I can't forgive you for hurting Lucy and using Fairy Tale's name in vain. Just shut up already, you damn brat. Bora said, as Natsu was suddenly engulfed in a ball of pink flames. Natsu! Lucy screamed, as she tried to run forward. But Happy extended his paw and stopped her. What the fuck are these flames? Are you really a fire mage? A voice from within the flames asked. Because these are honestly the worst flames I've ever tasted. Everyone watched wide-eyed as Natsu literally inhaled the flames. His stomach bulged slightly at the amount of flames he was eating. Natsu burped as he wiped the excess flames from his mouth. Thanks for the meal, you bastard. Natsu said with a smug grin. What the hell are you? Bora yelled as he took a fearful step backwards. Fire won't work on Natsu. Happy said with a smirk. If any of you idiots can use magic, now's the time. Bora exclaimed, as he turned to his goons. The thugs all looked at each other, and scratched their heads. However, one goon took a step forward. If fire won't work, let's see how you like lightning. The thug said, as he raised his arm. A streak of blue lightning fired from the thug's hand straight at Natsu. The Dragon Slayer simply raised an eyebrow as the lightning approached. Seconds? You guys are spoiling me. Natsu said with a grin as the lightning hit him. Ha! Got you, you smug bastard. The thug cheered, but it was short-lived. Almost instantly Natsu started to inhale the lightning surrounding his body. Gah! This tastes like shit too. Natsu said with a disgusted look on his face. How can you call yourself a mage? Electricity won't work on Natsu either. Happy said, as he crossed his paws over his chest. I've never seen magic like that. Lucy said in awe, as she watched flames swirl around Natsu. Now that I've eaten, I'm all fired up. Natsu exclaimed, as he punched his fists together, flames surrounding his body. No way, can he be, one thug said as he pointed a shaky finger at Natsu. Bora-san, I've seen this kid's before. Pink hair and a scale scarf. There's no doubt, he's the real. Let's see how you guys like this. Natsu yelled, as he inhaled deeply. His cheeks puffed up, as he built up fire in his mouth. Fire Dragon's Roar. The stream of concentrated fire obliterated a group of Bora's goons in a single blow. All the cronies were scattered around, and their bodies were burnt to a crisp. Natsu turned to another group of thugs and grinned. The air around Natsu crackled with electricity, as again he inhaled deeply. Lightning Dragon's Roar. A blinding bolt of lightning shot from Natsu's mouth. The rest of the thugs were caught up in the massive blast of electricity. All of the goons sparked with electricity, as they laid on the ground unconscious. Natsu is the real salamander, Lucy said with a smirk. Remember it well. Natsu roared, as he charged Bora. This is the power of a fairy tale mage. Natsu slammed a flaming fist onto the top of Bora's head. The man went face first into the hard ground, causing a few of his teeth to fall out. Eating fire and lightning and breathing fire and lightning, what type of magic is that? Lucy asked, as she looked at the destruction in utter astonishment. Dragon's lungs to breath fire and lightning, a dragon's scales to dissolve flames and disperse electricity, and dragon's claws to wrap in flames and lightning. Happy explained, as Lucy's jaw slowly dropped. It's ancient magic that basically turns a person's body into that of a dragon. This magic was originally developed to fight dragons. Igneel and Valinor taught Natsu this magic. Natsu is a dual dragon slayer. Valinor? Lucy asked, as she looked at Happy. Another dragon that helped raise Natsu, he's kinda like Natsu's older brother and Igneel is his dad. Valinor is the one who taught Natsu lightning dragon slayer magic, while Igneel taught Natsu fire dragon slayer magic. I see. Lucy breathed out as she stared at Natsu in wonder. Natsu, you really are amazing. Lucy thought with a smile. Fire Dragon's Claw. Natsu delivered a powerful flaming kick to Bora's face. This sent Bora flying with Natsu in hot pursuit. You little shit. Bora roared, as he flew up on his pink flames. Take this. Bora formed a massive ball of pink flames and threw it at Natsu. Don't you ever learn? Natsu said with a wolfish grin, as he caught the ball of flames. Opening his mouth, Natsu ate the flames immediately. Time to finish this. Again Natsu punched his fist together. But this time electricity coursed around Natsu instead of fire. When the Dragon Slayer looked up, he saw Bora looking at him with fearful eyes. Lightning Dragon's Iron Fist. Natsu jumped up and delivered a powerful uppercut to Bora's jaw. The ex-guild mage screamed in pain, as the powerful electricity flowed through his body. And one more. Natsu said with a smirk. Fire Dragon's Iron Fist. The lightning in Natsu's hand was replaced by fire. He slammed his fist into Bora's stomach, sending the man crashing to the ground. When Natsu landed on the ground, Bora was a mess. His body was charred and burned, as electricity crackled off him. That was amazing, Lucy breathed out, as she watched Natsu stand in triumph, but you overdid it. Lucy did a full 360, and saw that the port around her was completely in ruins. The port in completely trashed. Lucy said, as she ran her hands down her face. Happy said with a smile. Don't give me an eye, you dumb cat. Lucy screamed, as she heard the loud sound of approaching footsteps. What is going on over here? A military officer screamed, as he gazed at the extensive damage. Oh no, it's the military! Lucy exclaimed, but she suddenly felt someone dragging her. Shit, Lucy, we have to book it to Fairy Tale now. Natsu yelled, as he pulled Lucy along with him. Why does this have to happen to me? Lucy complained, as Natsu continued to drag her. You wanted to join Fairy Tale, right? Natsu asked, as he turned to face Lucy. The blonde celestial spirit mage quickly nodded. Well, this type of stuff comes with being a fairy tale mage. So come with me, Lucy. Natsu finished by giving Lucy a big toothy grin. Lucy felt her heart warm when Natsu grinned at her. She knew there was no way that she could say no to him. Okay. Lucy cheered, as she ran alongside Natsu towards her future at Fairy Tale. Lucy had no clue how important her meeting with Natsu would be that fateful day. She had no idea that the Dragon Slayer would forever change her life, along with the lives of 4 other girls. That wraps up this part of What If Natsu Had Dual Elements. Thanks so much for listening. As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well. See you in the next one.